What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Uncouth Radio. We've been gone for a minute, but we back for the jump off. Uh, the reason that y'all haven't really seen us doing shows, we've been like crazy in the trenches for the last few months, and we felt like now it was time to, get a chance to update you guys on our absence and update you on, what we've been doing and why we've been so busy. Um, got my man Quincy Belafonte, Q the Rebel here. I'm gonna let him kind of start and walk us through. You want to start with walking them through the trenches first,
Okay.
and then we can discuss.
Yes. Well, you could come in at different points if I forget something. So, um, Dane, Chan, and I was invited to a community meeting with Robert Luna, who's running for sheriff, and who is also the former chief of Long Beach PD. As you guys know, I used to be a former Long Beach police officer. So, I went to this meeting with a little bit more knowledge, with a lot more knowledge than everybody that was in that room. But I didn't realize how triggering it was for me to be in the same space as him. I think that's the most angriest I've ever been in my life. So I wasn't going to say anything. I sat in between Dame and Chan, and I was just going to keep my mouth closed. I put my mask on because I know my facial expressions could be strong, and I was just gonna, hear what he had to say, because in the end, we only have two options for sheriff. We have Robert Luna, and we have Sheriff Villanueva running for sheriff in November. So I was just gonna be quiet and kind of, let people of the community ask some questions and just see what happens. And what ended up happening, the first thing that started off is me trying to stay low key. They want to go around the room and want everybody to introduce themselves. So when it got to me, of course, he knew who I was. And after I introduced myself, he goes, well, it's good to see you. And I thought I said this to myself, but apparently I said it out loud. I was like, it's not good to see you. And the whole room heard it. So now I guess I was like, oh, because I could tell by the reactions that came out a lot louder than I anticipated. And so, people was asking him questions about what he was going to do for sheriff, and he was talking about his record at Long Beach, his track record in Long Beach, and I'm just sitting up there. I'm like, this motherfucker is lying. Like, and it was hard because I knew, like I said, everybody in there didn't know his record in Long Beach like I did. And so Chan was like, are you going to say something? I'm like, I think I'm going to have to, because if I wake up tomorrow morning and I know I didn't say nothing and I was the only person in this room that could ask him the questions that need to be asked, then I'm going to be pissed off at myself. But I was like, I'm going to wait and see. Because I know Dane have, because of me, and Dame have spoken to other Long Beach officers. So Dame is aware of Long Beach PD culture and the things that went on. And Dame, I forgot, Dame, what did you ask him? What did you say to him?
I said your record wasn't good in Long Beach, so why should we believe that your record is going to be good as a sheriff?
Yeah. And, he gave, your generic political answers. And then it was this young lady named Brittany who just lit into his ass. And basically, like, here we are 45 minutes to an hour in, and he haven't given us anything. He haven't given us any policies. she even asked him, how many black people work on your campaign? He was stuck on that question. And I was like, okay, I'm going to just go ahead and say something at this point. And so I raised my hand, and I was called on. And I said to him, it was, I'm impressed to see you, you know, be a good listener, sitting in here, take questions, all that, although he wasn't giving no substance and no answers. But the last time I spoke to him, when I was in his office and I tried to explain what was happening to me, he actually told me to shut up, shut my mouth. He didn't want to hear anything that came out my mouth. And he just lashed out, "You're a liar, you're a liar." So he's like yelling at me in a room full of black people on 52nd and Central. And he found out that wasn't a good idea. And there was this lady from Black Lives Matter. She checked him immediately, was like, "Hey, you don't talk to a black man like that, not in front of us." So the room, Skip Townsend, all of them was in there. The room was he had completely lost the room at this point. And so I said, okay, cool. Since I'm a liar, I just started naming things that, we all been through. I said, the city EEO, she testified that every black officer in Long Beach that came to her was terminated. Uh, Talked about all the different careers that, he contributed in destroying, how he pretty much wiped out a generation of black officers. Like currently now on Long Beach PD, out of 800 officers, it's less than 30, and it's only 4 black women on the department. Long Beach only hired 10 black women since 2000, and they had never promoted a black woman before 2 weeks ago, which he doesn't get credit for because he wasn't there. So it's like they waited after he left to be able to promote a black woman. And so you're talking about 20 years in as a commander, deputy chief, he had never vouched or promoted a black woman. And even the black woman that was promoted uh, 2 weeks ago, he still haven't acknowledged her promotion. And so, of course, he's like, stone faced it because he didn't think I would start sending, I talked to, and he said, you know, I can't talk about his personnel issues and he knows this and, all this stuff. Like I was afraid to talk about my issues or what they did to me. Uh, One of the things, and I spoke about this several times on this show, is that after my ex found the phone number in my pocket, she jumped on me and called the police, and I was the one that ended up arrested for domestic violence. And long story short, the case was dismissed. She, she was apologetic. She was just mad. I constantly cheating on her. Still no excuse to lie on me to the police, but I get where her anger was coming from. And so, but I had nothing in my IA package. So Long Beach wanted to, because they wanted to get rid of me because I was outspoken about some of the things that I didn't like, that I felt was racially motivated or contributing to systematic racism. And, I was just outspoken when I saw things. So what Long Beach do is they don't investigate your allegations of racism or anything. They go into character assassination mode to assassinate your character, to make you look so bad that people won't hear your complaint or the things that that you're saying that's happening there. So they want to use that domestic violence case uh, to tarnish my image. Yeah. And despite eyewitnesses and everything, they even said that my ex was the primary aggressor, but then went on to say, well, since you stayed in a bad relationship, it was your fault. And they sustained domestic violence charges against me, and then offered, they came to my grandmother's house uh, and fired me in front of my family, actually. And I found out that nobody has ever been fired in front of their family like that. And it came from deputy chief. He was deputy chief loan at the time, office. Um, so he pretended like I wasn't like I was scared to go into those facts, which clearly I've spoken about it several times since I've been doing the show for the past 6-7 years, whatever, how long we've been doing it. And he's like, well, we investigated all your allegations. I said, no, you did. He said, you did not investigate Lieutenant Beckman putting Obama face on the trash can, because how can you investigate something and not speak to the person who complained about it, which was me? And when Beckman was questioned by my attorney, was it political motivated or racially motivated? He said, well, it was political. And then my attorney asked him, well, how many white Democrats have you put on the trash can? And he said, none. So Long Beach never investigated that. Also, I had a sergeant that had sexual harassed my ex, and she complained to me about it. And instead of investigating that, they made him my internal affair investigator, which led to my termination. So a guy that knew I filed a complaint on him for sexual harassing my ex at the time was able to investigate. So let's just say that meeting didn't go well for him at all. And so after that meeting, me, Dame, Chan left. It was, I actually talked to him. I actually talked to him. He came up to me and he wanted to apologize, and he asked me if I accept his apology. I told him no, because he tarnished my name. A lot of you guys want to know all the things I've been through. I was sleeping in people's cars. I was sleeping in Chan's car. That's why, Chan, one of my closest friends, because she was there with me at like the rock bottom. Like it was a really tough time for me. My grandmother was dying of cancer. It's a whole lot of things that was just completely going bad for me during that time. And so I shared that with him. And so I told him, no, I couldn't forgive him, because he has completely a name that my family, my community, everybody has helped establish. That's why, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I didn't gangbang. People always say, oh, all you got to do, go to school, don't do drugs, go to college, graduate, and everything will be all right. No, they took all that away from me, and I did all those things. So I told him, no, I couldn't forgive him. And so I told him that, the thing that hurt me the most was me as a black officer with a family with kids, that if he had got on the radio and asked me for any type of help or assistance or hit an officer down, he didn't take around. So I would have risked my life to save his. And it hurts me more than anything. I would have risked my life for somebody who didn't give a fuck about mine. And I would have been able to see my family or my kids. And, he teared up. And after we talked and, we shook and hugged, but he gave me thoughts and prayers. But I wanted him to say that he would be willing to clear my name and clear other people's names. There's other people whose names he has affected, folks who've been on the department for 20 plus years. Never had a bad eval. But the moment she filed the complaint, they went to try to tarnish over 2 decades of hard work. And it just seemed like people are just constantly just protecting Long Beach PD, people, administration for Long Beach PD, and won't really ask them the hard questions, be held accountable. And in that room that night, if you was in there, you would know why people are protecting Long Beach PD. So that was the end of that meeting. And so then,
wait, before we get to the to the other meeting, I want to ask you quickly, can you give a rundown of some of the other officers that were at Long Beach and some of the things that they've dealt with just so people know it's not an isolated incident. It's not just something personal between you and Luna. Can you give us like a quick rundown as fast as you can about of the other officers that we know? Because I remember in that meeting, he was talking about how he couldn't talk about your case. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, we done named about 13 other officers that done dealt with some shit. So can we talk about that? So can you tell us about the other officers just to establish and let people understand the culture of Long Beach PD, and that's probably the culture that's going to be coming in if Luna wins the sheriff.
Yeah, well, let's talk about from the beginning. I was told that they were going to disqualify me uh, and backgrounds just because where I live, not because I wasn't qualified or I wasn't educated or I couldn't pass tests. None of that. They literally went by my address in my neighborhood and was going to disqualify me. An amazing woman, black woman named Jackie Burke, stepped up to the plate and took my background, and that's how I ended up getting through. But how many black applicants didn't have a Jackie Burke there for them that Long Beach probably eliminated just solely based on their address? So you got to take about all those black folks who was disqualified just because of where they live. So then let's go into training in the field training program, where a lot of black recruits that make it to the academy into the field training program, but they won't make it off probation because you're at will employee. And what Long Beach would do, they would send you to it's this black training officer. They called him Blackout. His name was Jeff Harris, and they would send all the black recruits to him when they wanted to get rid of them. So if they filed a lawsuit, they'd be like, "Oh well, it was a black training officer that fired him." One of the names I mentioned in that meeting was Recruit Jackson. Um, he was a good friend of mine at the time, and I remember his training officer, a white training officer, called him a big black gorilla. Jackson was like 6'3", 265, at like 2% body fat. Dude was huge. Real nice dude though. And his training officer called him a big black gorilla. Once he made that known that he was bothered by that, he was sent to blackout. And next thing you know, he didn't make it off training. Um, Another person that went through that was probably some of y'all know was I think it was Trayvon Ghosty. They didn't like him for whatever reason. They labeled him as you know, dope dealer because how he dressed and all this stuff. And despite him probably scoring pretty high as far as getting arrests and being active and all that, they did everything to assassinate his character as well to get him eliminated. Then it was Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen was a reserve officer. And when you're a reserve officer, you're basically a police officer for free. So he did everything right for free. But when it was time to pay him, all of a sudden they said he can write police reports. That was always the thing on African American officers on Long Beach. You can't write reports. Even Kenneth Jackson, because he had a degree in journalism, and they said he couldn't write a police report. But our white counterparts that was in the academy that failed every damn writing assignment we had, all of a sudden miraculously knew how to write. And so you have those stories, and then you have the situation with Detective McGuire, which when Luna was a sergeant, there was a picture that some detectives had put up inside the station with a black man on a noose, and he reported it to Luna at the time when he was sergeant, and all Luna had to do was walk in and see the picture for herself, and because Detective McGuire didn't want to be, identified as the one who mentioned the picture, because of the history of the Department of Retaliation. Um, Robert Luna outed him out anyway, which set him up for retaliation. Then you had Eugene Cummings. You know, did did Eugene probably do something he shouldn't have done? Yes, but did he do something that many white officers have done? Yes. Did they get charged criminally and warrants and all that? No. And they put Eugene through so much that he called his mom, and she was in traffic because she was living a Laker game. And when she called him back, he didn't answer. And by that time, Eugene had took his own life. Eugene went to Dorsey High School. He was from South Central, real cool dude. Uh, then you have Jackie Burt, very smart black woman. Should have been the first black female sergeant in the department. Over 20 plus years of good work. They thought so highly of her. She was the one that spoke to the media during the officer-involved shootings, or that they were comfortable putting her in front of the media to represent the department. How highly they spoke of her, and once she mentioned that she was being targeted, she felt like she was being harassed because of her race. She went through it. There's an officer, I will keep him nameless because he's still on the department, who told me last week that in my case, um, they wanted him to change his story and lie, and because he told the truth, they went after him. Same thing would happen with Sergeant McDonald, um, who testified in my case. They targeted him as well. So, just based on all this, if you want to know why Long Beach only got 4 black females on the department, less than 30 out of 800 officers, this how you got to that number. And yeah, like Mark said, they threatened Eugene with prison, and also they threatened some of his witnesses as well. And so people were saying things that they actually didn't see. But since they were threatening witnesses with termination, they folks would just blame Eugene, despite them not even being there to even say was he wrong or right. And so when you just look at the totality of all this, and you look at, okay, what was Robert Luna wrote? He was the least. We talking about all the way from sergeant, lieutenant, to deputy chief to chief. He's has a history of not protecting whistleblowers, our black people in the Long Beach.
Well, let me ask you this: is it true that since while he was captain, he fired more black people than he hired? And is it also true that every single officer that filed a discrimination complaint got fired?
Yeah, well, we don't have captain in Long Beach. We had chief, but yeah, from deputy chief to chief, he fired more black people um, than he hired. That is accurate. Um, I'm not sure if every black person that filed a complaint was fired, but they was definitely because the reason I know, like Billy McDonald, he was facing termination. So you had people who was facing termination, and because some evidence that they just couldn't dispute came out, stuff disappeared. But did they put him through pure hell, and the stress level of you about to lose your career, your job, but definitely everybody who files a complaint definitely end up having some type of internal affairs investigation open up on them. That is definitely accurate. I mean, even those when Luna tell that story about those 4 black officers that he told in front of all those black people. He talked about he saw these black officers and he looked into their eyes and he took them in his office, and that whole little spiel. And those those black officers talked about the racism that they was experiencing on training. You know, one person talked about how the training officer told them how they got to talk different and act different. You got new friends. You one of us now. Or you're a part of Black Lives. I ain't training you because you might be a part of Black Lives Matter. All that stuff. All four of them, I know. All four of them had internal affairs investigations open up on them, and so that's one.
Okay, so now that you set up basically the picture of the culture and that meeting, because I think that meeting needed some of that context, right? Like that meeting needed some of the context of what he has done and then how he comes off in these meetings on the debates as he's like the innocent little East LA guy that made it, and he's done everything right. And listen, before we even talk about Sheriff Villanueva, like I know both candidates are flawed, but I know there's a difference in what I'm seeing. That's what I'll say and leave it right there. Okay, so now you can go on to after the meeting and start to take us to where we are now.
Okay, so after the meeting, I got a call from Darren Neely. Darren Neely is the most senior African American officer on Long Beach PD. He came on 1985, so he was there when Luna. I think he started like right before Luna, either a month or a year ahead of him. And he called me. He said, "Well, I spoke to the lieutenant, and he had Sheriff Villanueva call me, and I told him, about you and everything you went through. Would you be willing to talk to him?" My response was, "Hell no," because some of the remarks and the things that the sheriff had said that I didn't agree with, that I was upset about, and so first person I called was Dame. I talked to Dame. I made some other phone calls, and then Dame said, "Look, you met with a motherfucker that fired you. Might as well just meet with the sheriff and see what he talking about. You never met him, so Scott said, well, you got to go with me." And so Dame was like, "Okay, I'll roll with you." And then we cracking jokes as we head in there, like we about to it's gonna be a big white building, unmarked, in the middle of nowhere, no address, and we pull up, big ass white building, unmarked, no address. And so I told Dame, I said, "Look, it's gonna be what it is." Like I said, this meeting might be about 30 seconds to a minute, because we have some things with some of the things he has said in the media over time regarding Black people and things like that. And so we went into the meeting, and we shared some of the things with the sheriff that some of the comments and things he made, and he turned around, he was like, "No, you guys are right." I'm like, "The fuck? That's not the response I was expecting, because we walked in there ready for war. Like he gonna pretty much kick us out. Like this, we about to go in there, and he gonna be like, "You niggas got to get up out of here," because we went in there. We like, "Hey man, what's up with this? I saw that interview on Fox News. What the hell was this about? Blah 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 blah." Because one thing about Dame and I, we have no. We ain't ask for no personal favors. We just coming in. Hey, how can you help the community? How can you help the sheriff be better? That's why we met with Luna, despite what he did to me personally or whatever. Like I said, we have two candidates. So if Luna would have been there, like, "Hey, you know what? I fucked up 10 years ago," which he did. He said that, but he didn't say this part. Like, I do whatever I can to fix that, and I'm going to do. Because one of the things I did ask him back up, my question for Luna was, what would you do differently? And for the sheriffs that you did in Long Beach, like when you meet the next Quincy that comes through the sheriff and he does the same thing I did and make complaints, like how would you treat Black deputies differently than you treated your Black officers in Long Beach? And he had no answer. So pretty much me and Dane, we took the same question to the sheriff. You know, I know people who have their grievances with the sheriff, and we brought all that up. And we even asked him, "Are you willing to sit down and meet with these folks? Are you sit down the men fences to talk?" And he was pretty much open to all that. So it turned out we went in there for like a 2 minute war, and 4 hours later, you know, we had this, you know, like Dane just say shit for an hour, for a whole hour while we talking to Sheriff Villanueva. He was like really just feeling the scene, and I let him explain what was going through his mind. For that first hour, he didn't say nothing.
Yeah, so for that first hour, one, I was listening like to everything intently, listening to every word that came out his mouth, listening to every answer he had. Because I will say, and Quincy is my witness. One of the first things I said when I finally did talk, I was like, "Yeah, black people don't fuck with you." That like just like that. That was like one of the first things I said to him because I was like, "If we gonna get kicked out, we gonna get kicked out."
Our mindset, like we might get kicked out. You know, it's gonna be what it is. But at
Yeah.
least he gonna know how we felt.
Yeah, so that's the first thing I said was, "Yo, black people don't fuck with you," and I was like, and it's bad. It's from my young cousins to my older aunt. I was like, "You got a problem with the black community," and to his credit, he said, "Oh, that's why I wanted to meet with somebody like you." He said that's why we needed to meet with somebody like you because we know there's some blind spots, there's some things that we need to fix, and we need to talk to people like you who are really ingrained in the community to help us with that. And like Quincy said, we thought it was going to be like a 10-20 minute meeting, but it actually turned into a 4 hour meeting of us going through basically a fine-tooth comb all the shit that he said and did as the sheriff that we didn't like, that we didn't agree with. And listen, and people will tell you, I'm not somebody who feels like if you if you don't agree with every one of my positions, you got to throw the whole thing away. Because there were some things he said that we still didn't agree with, and we pushed back on it, but we like, okay, cool. But there was a lot of things that we said that he was like, oh, I didn't look at it like that. I didn't think about it like that. I didn't have that perspective. And I go back to what Quincy said. I feel like there has been a lot of black people in the room, but there haven't been a lot of black people in the room that one really care about the community. Because a lot of people, well, we'll get into the shit that we've seen. We'll get to the shit we've seen, but
Well, like Dame said, like one of the things he was talking to us about woke people, right? And he was like, yeah, you know, when the woke kids come from Arizona and Utah, and they tear up the neighborhoods, and we arrest about 80 people on normally in Imperial, and it was a bunch of woke kids, like woke white kids from Utah. I'm like, wait a minute, woke white kids? I was like, what are you talking about? And so I was like, do you know when you talk about woke people, uh, black people think you're talking about them? And he was shocked, like, really? I said, yeah. Woke in the black community mean people who are socially and politically conscious and aware of what's going on. And he said, you know what? I didn't know that. And so he's like, I'm gonna say it again. And I have to say, since that day, because I've been watching, I'm real big on keeping your word. Since that day, he haven't referred to woke people since. And so that's when I was like, okay, we got something here, and we might as well get into it. I'm gonna be honest with you. One of the most disappointing things for me is there have been black people at the table. There have been black people on speed dial that have his number, but these motherfuckers are too busy worried about trying to get their cousins out and getting the hookup. They not. I mean, these are some folks that if we said their name, you would definitely recognize their name, and you think. And I'm like, wait a minute. So when Dame and I are just really talking about community-based stuff and things like we're not in there for no personal favors or anything. I think that kind of more. I think he mentioned something to that, like you guys can come in here with no personal favors or whatever, but we normally get people who in here and you know they want their cousin transferred and shit out of Wayside or you know what things like that, and that's not what we was here for. So that meeting, uh, after that meeting, me and Dame sat in the car for like 30 minutes quiet because um, because we didn't know what the fuck just happened.
No, like for real. We was for real shell shocked. Like we sat in the car, like, yo, what the fuck was that? And I will say, because for me, everything is in comparison, and I want everybody to understand that's watching. Everything that's under it's in comparison to the two candidates for me. Because it's gonna be one of them, right? It's either gonna be Luna or Villanueva. So everything that we talked about with Villanueva was in contrast to what we talked about with Luna. So this is one of the few times we had the opportunity to sit down with both candidates and basically ask them all of the same questions. And Quincy can tell you and attest to this. When we asked Luna the tough questions, when we confronted him with his record, he did not only not have answers, he didn't try to give answers. And so then even after that, because we kept trying to give him leeway, like, okay, cool. You're not going to answer that. Let's talk about your policy that you plan on bringing into the sheriff's department. So when we try to talk about policy, because y'all know my uncouth people, y'all know I'm big on policy. Policy is what matters, not the person, but the policy. So like Quincy said, even though this is the dude who fired me and basically destroyed my life, if he got some policy that's going to be better for black folks, let's hear it. So we gave him that shot. No policy. He had no policy to commit to. And we even was like, all right, well, maybe if you bring in some people that we know and trust into your regime, maybe that'll help us feel comfortable at ease. And he wouldn't even commit to that. He like, nah. So basically he hit us with the nah, can't do that on everything. So the contrast is then when we sat down with Sheriff Villanueva, and like Quincy said, we laid down everything. Like all the people who knew we was going to the meeting, tell them this, say this. So we were like, all right, cool, we're gonna get that shit off, because I thought we were never gonna see him again. So I'm like, this gonna be the only time I get to get in the room with the sheriff and tell him all the things, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, all right, I'm getting that shit off. But it turned into a dialogue. And not only did it turn to a dialogue, after that, he was like, I want y'all to come back. I want y'all to talk to me about some more things. I want y'all to put together some community events. I want y'all to put together the things y'all feel are important to the community and bring them to me. Some things that I could do and that I could fix, one, while I'm the sheriff, and if I get a second term, because, quiet as it kept, and Quincy can tell you, there are some things that we sat down and we talked about that the sheriff has kind of quietly been enacting already into some of his policy. Like some things are starting to fold into his policy already. And you guys will see, I did a probably like an hour long interview with the sheriff the other day. And listen, I didn't hold back. I asked all the tough questions, because you know why? It's important that I get the information to y'all, the information to my folks, and I give y'all a chance to have everything laid out in front of you so you can make educated decisions, because that's what we do. That's what we've always done. So the reason that it's been tough for us to do a show the past 2 months is because we have really been enthralled in trying to help write policy for our community. We've been talking about trying to get deputies to not start in jails so they can, not look at black folks as and Latinos as only criminals, because that's their first encounters, especially the people that's from out of state. But then we also talked about not hiring people from out of state. We've been talking about hiring people from within our own community to police our communities, so we could talk about real community policing. We've been talking to the sheriff about bringing back the Sheriff Youth League, because that was something during the time of the Sheriff Youth League, you actually did have some kind of trust between the black community and the sheriff's department, because the sheriffs were a lot of the coaches. So the kids grew up knowing the sheriffs as their coaches. So we talked about that. And also, it keeps kids off the streets, give them something to do, give them some self-worth, gives them some esteem. Very young. I remember those sheriff games. Like, they were big for us, the sheriff's baseball, sheriff's football. So we talked about, bringing that back. We talked about more community accountability, where he has to come and talk to us in the community at each department once a month, where we get to hold him accountable without having to have political connections. That's the conversations we have been having. There's a few other things. Like, I'm talking about, when I say we had a list that we walked in there with, we had a list of, like, these are the things we feel like we want and will help not only heal some of the ills that we have in the black community, but also that will help the sheriff's department run better, help the sheriff's department be better on the street for us, and help give us a chance. We talked about biases. Excuse me. We talked about biases. We talked about a whole lot of stuff. But that's why it's been tough for us to really get on the air and do the show, because we've actually been trying to affect policy and affect the policy that touches, black and brown people, but more specifically, policy that touches black folks. So Quincy, I'll let you chime in now.
Yeah, and that, to me, that's what it's all about. It's about giving you guys all the information. I have to say, one of the things that has really been disheartening for me is how the media has been extremely biased uh, throughout this process. The deputy gangs, and you know, and we spoke about deputy gangs, but I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Deputy gangs, I remember hearing about that when I was 10, and all these people that's bringing it up now. Why didn't you bring that shit up before Villanueva got in office? But then if you go back, because I went back, because once we started really having conversations with dude, I went back and I looked at debates, and I want to see what he's saying now. Was he saying that back in 2018 when he was running? He was saying the same exact things, actually. He does have a policy that addressed deputy gangs. One of the things he said regarding deputy gangs is that he feels he don't like calling them deputy gangs because he feels not everybody are not everybody who are part of these sub cliques or whatever, which I don't agree. I just think it's just the optics of bad to just have different, like, your cliques. And I get it, because you might have your crew, that's your crew, and y'all want to call yourself something, something like, I don't know. But I don't think a good group for a deputy clique or police clique, the executioners, is not a good name to have. Or the Grim Reapers, or whatever. Just optics wise, that's fucking horrible. But he has people who are because people who are participated in criminal activity regarding whether you with one of these deputy cliques or not. He has terminated, and he just don't like folks who haven't participated in criminal activity, lumping them in to that. And also with the whole tattoo deal, like he said, he can't walk into the station and tell people to take their clothes off so he could see their tattoo. And so when he said, I was like, yeah, that's true. Can't do that. So when you hear Luna say, oh, he gonna fire every deputy gang member, how? Because first you got to prove it. So somebody could say, because of the folks that's in my family, that I'm part of a particular gang, and there's no way in hell they're gonna be like, well, prove to us you don't have this tattoo, so take your shirt off. That would be a lawsuit. So, but there's still one thing about being around the sheriff, I would say, is that he doesn't give a damn about optics, which I don't know if that's a good thing in politics, because I get it, because that's why I want to be a good politician. I know everybody be like, you should run. I'm not good with it. If I think something is what it is, damn it, is what it is, and I don't care about optics. That's kind of how he is. But in the end, like Dame said, like, when he invited us back because he wanted some suggestions, I was like, well, shit, we finna go for it all and see how much we can get regarding, some people have mentioned jail gang intervention programs. We do all that at them. So far, nothing has been a no. Absolutely nothing has been a no. And I think it means something that me and Dane both in our phones have a text message and an email of things that he said he would implement as sheriff, that if he don't do, we'll be on his ass. And when you have Luna, who haven't offered not one policy, anything, I'm trying to figure out how do you hold somebody accountable that won't even present an agenda or a policy. And the reason for that is, uh, how is he going to implement something in the sheriff that he didn't implement in Long Beach? And he don't want to have to answer those questions. And that's why I was talking about the media bias. Is that you have all these organizations, these black organizations that these democratic organizations that's blindly supporting Luna without an explanation. And I think I've confronted a couple of politicians. Like I'm starting to get this little reputation. I don't know if it's good or not because I've been walking up on politicians because we didn't been in some spaces with some local politicians that I never thought we would be in a space with. And I asked them straight up. I said, look, with black women are the percentage wise the most loyal voters to the Democratic Party.
Do you want to address these comments from Don?
Go ahead.
Do you want to address them?
Go ahead.
Okay, so he said it's interesting. It's interesting how much grace is given for sheriffs and police officers that are definitely in gangs. None of that grace was ever extended to black kids in the 80s and 90s. And then he said black folks are still getting targeted based on where they live. That's the crime, in my opinion. So no police officer should get a pass for being in the clique. Actually, they should be charged exactly like street gang members. I don't disagree with that, Don. And I think and what Quincy was talking about was the constitutionality of how you can charge those people, right? And I'm damn sure ain't giving them grace for that shit. I ain't giving nobody grace for none of that fuck shit. But I think it should be noted that the sheriff actually put in legislation where he can charge better, where he can find ways to charge the gang. And of course, that hasn't really been put in the media. But damn, I wish I remembered the name of the bill. But there's a bill that has been made specifically to give them more tools to be able to charge the police that are in deputy gangs. Because the way it was, because there's basically a different set of laws for police. So the way it was, it's tough to charge them. But now it's going to be easy to charge them, and he actually has fired a lot of them. Ron, on point. So he said the key is proving that they are in a gang, which is the tough part. So that's what we're talking about, Don. We're not saying we're giving them grace. We saying like the burden of proof of how you prove that they are in the deputy gang is not as easy, as it is about street shit. But I get your point, and I feel you, and I hear that. But again, on my side, we ain't giving no grace to nobody in no deputy gangs.
All right. And like Ron said, I always tell people, period, with any of this, knowing and proving are two different things. Because what will end up happening if you just fire people because of their association and they haven't really done anything out of policy. That's why it was important for him to make a policy. But before there wasn't no policy, or they haven't done anything criminally, you fire them. What you're going to end up doing is paying that person back pay when they get their job back after they sue, which now was a waste of taxpayers' money. So it's about also, like Dame said, him implementing legislation to so he could have more control when people do participate in criminal or unethical activities.
One of the things I want to talk about, before we get out of here, is, my people, we have to vet the local politicians that we voting into these offices. Listen, one thing I've learned being behind the scenes and talking to these folks, there are resources for us in the neighborhoods. There are resources for us to do a lot of things in the community, and they ain't fucking getting to us. And a lot of it is bureaucratic bullshit because politicians is like awarding their homies with that money, and that money ain't making it to us. You know what I'm saying? So please, we got to do a better job of vetting them because there has been things that I've seen. I'm like, if these three things would happen, so much would be better in our neighborhoods and our communities right now. And some of these politicians are black folks that we voted in there that we thought was going to do the right thing for us. Like Quincy said, he getting a reputation for going after him, but he been going and having conversations in their face like, yo, you supposed to be doing this. Why is this not happening? Why is this not getting done? The first step, let's go to the comments. The first step of providing unconditional protection for whistleblowers. Next, the investigation should include community peer transparency. I agree with that, Ron. Don said, and the sheriffs and police don't brag. They have subreddits now. You can see online. Why don't those police officers get their doors kicked in like they were doing black people in the neighborhoods? This is why the internal affairs should have a component from the community.
Well, I would say this. I always thought that internal affairs shouldn't even exist. It should be a different agency, period, that's ran by the state. That way, people won't be investigating their homies, and and you know. But I've actually spoke with someone about that with the governor, Governor Newsom, that they wanted me to write a letter to earlier this year regarding that, because as long as it's called internal affairs, so I mean, so as far you got the police investigating police, it's going to always kind of be some. It's going to always be a conflict of interest. Um, so, yeah, I definitely agree with that component.
Melody said, "Hey guys, what are the odds? What are the odds of a stronger vetting process and extensive training for rookies and refreshers for those who have been there? Have we talked about that at all, Quincy?
I would we so I would tell you this: it's not the training. Uh, the training is fine. It's the people that they hire, because you can fake the phone while you're on probation. We all do it. You know, when you get on the job, you got that 90 day. You at work on time, blah blah blah. The moment that 90 day up, motherfuckers start showing up to work 30 minutes late, all that, and it's no different in law enforcement profession. People don't show their true colors while they're on probation, but the moment they get off, just like, okay, you know, now they showing up, they got their Confederate flag beyond a truck, or whatever going on. Um, but that definitely has to be dealt with, an issue that needs to be addressed. I think in all agencies. But one of the things that the sheriff talked about is when he took over, that they was doing a lot of recruiting from out of state. And when he was staying out of state, he mentioned Utah, Idaho, Texas. These are places where the department, actually Jim McDonald, who also was a former Long Beach chief, was the sheriff, was recruiting from outside the state. The sheriff uh, stopped that, and he, even without us, just in our dialogue, he's like, and he mentioned this. This was one of his promises, is that he's going to try to make sure uh, that his academies are at least 15% black. And so, you know, like I said, at least we have some things that we could hold him accountable to. And with Luna won't commit to anything. He still won't commit to nothing. He's getting a pass. Shit. I mean, if nobody asking you what are your policies, what are your plans, how you gonna protect black officers, are you gonna actually promote black females, since you didn't do it in Long Beach? Like, if no one asked him, he don't have to. But you know, we still trying to, we're gonna try to get as much as we can. But like I said, the thing for us, we were surprised that he listened to us. So we'll see.
Yeah, so we just kind of wanted to get with our folks, give y'all the rundown, let y'all know what's happening, and let y'all know again. Y'all know for us, it's about putting on for the black and brown folks in the community. It's about putting on for us and getting the things we need. So that's what we pushing for. And no matter who is the sheriff, we gonna have to really strengthen our shit up to make sure we hold whoever's in there accountable. It ain't gonna stop. All right. Because this is something that needs to happen and something that needs to get better, and something that is near and dear to me just because growing up in the neighborhoods and the things I've dealt with being brutalized by the police. Uh, so we got to make sure, we stay on everybody ass, and that means we need y'all to get more involved and get y'all more involved as well in the local process because we need more voices. So anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah. I just want to reiterate you saying about we really got to vet um, our politicians. Ron always says all skin folks ain't kin folks, and we definitely have seen it. And I've been really disappointed because I'm like, wait a minute, you mean you had the sheriff ear all this time and you ain't saying shit? like so you had him on speed dial this whole time and you haven't suggested not one damn policy, nothing. And you know what? We need to just be careful just voting for people because they're a familiar name. We see the same name. We just vote. We just vote. And I mean, we have to do a lot better because, like Dame said, I was shocked to see the resources are there to make things better, but we don't have the right people. And I'm talking about us. That's running these programs. But like I said, you got people endorsing Luna. A Black Women's Association group. And one of the things of a requirement of getting an endorsement is making sure you putting Black women in leadership, and they just endorse somebody who have never promoted a Black woman and coming from a department that took 134 years to promote a Black woman. And we just have to we just have to do better. We're gonna do a show because we got Long Beach branch NAACP. It's a couple of other groups that need to be called out about enabling and a lot of racist law enforcement officials, and they're protecting them because they're getting broke off money. So just be ready. We got a lot more coming. And by the way, look, if it's something y'all want us to actually share, send it. Because whatever y'all send, trust me, people have said, "Hey, ask me this." I sure in the fuck will. Well, my cousin got fired. Blah blah blah. I ask him because, like I said, we not looking for any personal favors. We have nothing to lose. So, except just go in there and be upfront, honest. We thought we was gonna get kicked out of this office by now.
Hold on. Melody, you saying you are a member of the Long Beach NAACP branch? If you are, we need to talk to you. For real. We need to talk to you after the show.
Yeah, so he haven't kicked us out of his office yet. Actually, there's been some calls initiated from their side. So, like I said, if y'all have anything that you want, that you think that can help the community, help the sheriff department, let us know. We take it directly to him and go from there. And we'll tell you his response. But so far, like I said, we got a phone, me and Dame, we got text messages and emails from the sheriff full of commitments that a lot of people have asked for that they want to see. And like I said, if he get in there, he don't do what we tell him to say, then he get in there and he don't do what he said, then we get to hold him accountable for. What's that question Ron asked? Hey, you know what? I'm not gonna ask him that, but I know somebody who will. We for sure. Hey, Ron. Hey, I know. You know what? Actually, I will ask him that. I do it. Hey, what the fuck? I do it. I do it. I might not. Yeah, I do it. All right, no problem. I want to know about quota policies. Well, quota is against the law. That's a California uh, state law. So yeah, there was actually some LAPD motor cops that got like 1.3 million for being retaliated against years ago for being on a quota. So yeah, having quota is against the law. Plus, the sheriff, they don't really like give a damn about like quotas. Sheriff don't really do a lot of pulling over unless they think you got some big shit like drugs, guns, or something like that. Yeah. Actually, Ron, I know a lot of people that date opposite, like they're Democrat and their wife a Republican, or the wife a Democrat, and they're Republican. I tried to date a Republican. She kicked me to the curb because she saw my page about Trump. So that shit doesn't work for me.
Oh,
but
really?
yeah, man. She kicked me to the curb. She saw my page and I was tearing Trump ass up, and she cut me. She ghosted me. So some people can do it, some people can't. So I guess I'm not one of them.
Oh, what he said. We need to ask, why does the crime rate rise near the sheriff station? Okay, I can ask that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely will.
I agree, Jan. That's why I want to talk to Melody Chan, because we need to.
Y'all saw it firsthand. Y'all saw it firsthand what's going on with the Long Beach branch at NAACP.
The mindset is always high crime around police stations. Baffling.
Yeah, that is weird. Now think about it. I don't know too many police stations that's in a good neighborhood.
Yeah, he said my neighborhood has increased at least 30% since building on Imperial.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll definitely, maybe we could try to we're gonna try to get them to come on Coof.
I don't think that's gonna happen, Ron. But yeah, we talked to the sheriff about getting him on Coof so you guys can actually ask him questions directly. So that's our next step.
Yeah, we're trying to get him on Coof.
So my interview with him will probably drop Monday, and then after that, guys, we're gonna try to do a follow up with him on Uncouth. Like after you watch the interview, we want you guys to watch it, and if you still have questions, things you want to talk about, you know how we do right here. How I'm dropping the comments. We're gonna do the same thing. All right.
Any other questions?
And because y'all got these questions here, we know where they are. We can come right back to it, so we can go ask.
Yeah. So
Sure.
even after we go off live, if it's something you want to ask, just put it in there, and we will we'll bring it to him.
That's Mark McGuire, former Long Beach PD, answering the question for you, Will, regarding the crime rate rising near sheriff stations because they're deployed from there out into the neighborhood and not assigned to the station unless there's a threat to the station. So basically, since the station is there, they don't be around the station. All right. Any more questions? If y'all have any more questions, you can still drop them in this even after the show is over. Share the show, please. I want all y'all to share the show with everybody because we want to get this information out. We really need to get this information out. Be on the lookout. We got some things coming up next week. And like I said, we're going to try to get the sheriff on the show so you guys can. Don't worry, Janae. If you have more questions, just hit me in my inbox.
Yeah.
And Willie, to your point too, I think the same thing happened in Hawthorne when they opened the Hawthorne station.
Mm-hmm.
Like more crime happened right in that area by the Hawthorne station.
Yeah, because most officers are not in the station.
Yeah,
you out, and they know that. Criminals know, like, oh, them fools are way out.
Yep.
And they call. So most officers, I know people like on TV. You feel, you got all these officers inside the station, unless it's the main stations, like LAPD main station is downtown where all the administration at. It's a lot more people on those, but these substations.
We're gonna invite him on, Chan. We'll see if he comes on, but we're gonna invite Luna on as well.
I won't be on that show. Chad, you're gonna have to do that show with Dame because he might not come on if he sees me on the show.
Yeah, so maybe me, Ron, and Chan do that show.
Yeah, y'all can do that show.
And nigga Quincy gonna be in the comments like,
yeah. He probably ain't gonna. But you know what's crazy? He haven't done a black community meeting since that meeting.
nope. That was
He
the last
hasn't-
one.
That was his last one. So he a little traumatized.
Because they was on his ass. But hey, man, we thank everybody for watching. Like we said, share, get the word out. For me, like I said, this is about having politicians we can hold accountable, and we feel like we will be able to hold Villanueva accountable. I don't know if we will have the same apparatus to hold Luna accountable as of now. That's where it's at for us. So, you know, do what you will with that information, and you know, we'll be here for y'all. And like I said, Janae, anybody else who got questions, just hit us in the inbox. Hit me, hit Quincy, hit Chan, hit Ron, hit anybody that's part of Uncool in the inbox, and we'll make sure we'll compile another list and march in there next time we with them. Because whenever we with them, we talking about shit we need. Period. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Uncool Radio. We appreciate y'all joining us. Until next time.